Hello, good afternoon everyone. I am WVPY Lakmal from 11th batch of MAE. This is the first assignment on world economic trends, and today I am going to talk about the effects of international labor migrations and brain drain on developed and developing countries in post-COVID-19 world. First of all, let me share my PowerPoint presentation here. Yes. Uh, this is the topic I am going to talk about today, and the lecture outline I am going to talk about the introductions of the topic, the background of the topic, the current and the future trends of labor migrations, the impact of the labor migrations domestically and internationally, and the conclusion and the reference. Let's look at the introductions. Does the legal migration a right? Recently, the international migrant workers make up nearly 5% of the global skilled and unskilled workforce, including professionals. Uh, Here, the labor migrations usually refers to the migrations of the skilled and unskilled laborers. Brain drain is usually refers to the migration of the professionals and the highly skilled persons. The Sustainable Development Goal set by the UN recognizes migration as an important component of developing development policies and expect all the government to facilitate it in an orderly, safe and responsible manner. So with this sustainable developmental goal, we can assure that the current world identifies the labor migrations as a right. And does brain drain a one-way process? Here, what I want to emphasize is, although brain drain usually occurs from uh, developing world to developed world, the other way is not always, not always false. Uh, there is a small mistake, not always false. I mean, uh, for example, within the European Union, there are migration from developed countries to the developed countries, and also from developed countries to the some of the Arabic countries, from developed countries to the India or some of the developing countries. So likewise, this brain drain is commonly occurring from developing countries to the developed countries, but the other way is not always false. The other way is also existing. In the recent decades, there is a new trend in developed world that most of their citizens abstain from doing more mentally and physically exhausted jobs. To set off the demand for that particular jobs, those governments encourage skilled labor migrations and professional migration with more incentives. Let's look at the key reasons for brain drain. Lack of job opportunities and economic instability in the home country, higher salaries and better benefits offers in other countries, limited career growth and advancement opportunities, inadequate infrastructure and resource for research and development, political instability and lack of security, limited freedom of expressions and restrictions on intellectual pursuits, insufficient investment in education and training, inefficient healthcare system and limited access to medical facility. So the key reasons for brain drains we can uh, categorize as physical reasons, social reason and also a psychological reason. Interestingly, recently in Sri Lanka, there is a rising trend of migrations. Uh, in some groups, now the migration has become a passion. I mean, they don't have actually a target. They don't have a job opportunities. They don't have any higher education ambitions in the other countries. But it has become a fashion. So what they wanted is to left the mother country. So actually it is happening currently in Sri Lanka, not only among uneducated population, even in the among the educated population. For example, some doctors are migrating for uh, very not another jobs, not for the same professions like caretakers of the other countries. So there are these are the psychological reasons, not the political reasons, not the not only the political reasons, not only the social and economical reasons. There are psychological aspect as well. So let's look at the Sri Lankan uh, context of labor migrations. Here we have to talk about the free education policies. Uh, I'm going to talk about some interesting case. I know you most probably you might not heard this before. This is about the uh, first Vice Chancellor of University of Ceylon, Sir William Ivor Jennings. Uh, More commonly named Ivor Jennings. Uh, he's the man who predicted the Sri Lankan brain drain in 1950s. So let's look at what did he say about the free education. So Ivor Jennings is a person who didn't sign the free education policies, the last mandate of free education policy. He emphasized several key issues uh, that was uh, emerged, that is going to be emerged with the free education policies. So although he contributed to the formation of free education policies, he didn't sign for the final amendment. Here he emphasized some interesting facts. So I'm going to read it. So Ivor Jennings did not sign the Kannangara Committee report on free education. Following are a few excerpts from his rider. His stance on country not able to absorb commercial and technical qualified products was perhaps one of the reasons that practical education was neglected. Though there is much in the report with which I agree, I regret that I am unable to sign it. If, however, education really became compulsory, and if uh, pupils of all classes were encouraged by free education to remain at school up to the age of 16, there might be as many as 22,500, that is roughly 15% of the total school students leaving schools every year with commercial and technical qualifications. I see no evidence that the island is likely to be able to absorb even half of that number. I appreciate the difficulty which perhaps weighted with the committee, that many pupils are receiving wholly inappropriate academic education in secondary schools. I think the solutions partly to alter the bias of secondary education and partly to improve the quality of the other schools and to encourage them to specialize. So the what he uh, what he meant was uh, he after implementing the free education policy, all the social classes are engaging in quality education. So as a result, in 1950s, he predicted that more than 20,000, roughly 22,500 students were going to pass out as qualified uh, technical as qualified students. So the Sri Lankan economy in those days was uh, mainly based on agricultural economy, uh, where we totally depend on our tea exports, rubber exports, coconut exports, and etc. So we didn't have that much of industrialized economy to absorb those 22,500 students to the economy. So according to him, even half of that number, even 10,000 students, uh, were not able to absorb into the uh, system, either private or public. So this is here, he has clearly predicted this scenario, the brain drain, which is going to happen in the country. So uh, that is what happened in the Sri Lankan context. I mean, over the last 7 decades after implementing the free education policy, uh, there is an extravagant growth of the education sector. I mean, initially there was only one university, University of Ceylon. Then three or five. By 1994, there were only five universities, but now there are around 17 state universities, only state universities. There are multiple private universities. So we are making a lot of professionals. But the thing is, our economy has not grown uh, accordingly. So recently I heard one interesting political discussions where Mr. Patali Champikaranaka very precisely told that the amount of degrees, the amount of graduates we are going to produce should be proportionate to the growth rate of the economy. I mean, in Sri Lankan context, that was not happened. Uh, we always think about making a lot of professionals and technically qualified persons, and we didn't develop the economy. So uh, the end result was, after graduating, they don't have jobs, so they have to look for, if the jobs are not available in their home countries, they have to look for the other alternatives. In the vicinity, there are a lot of requirements in the other countries in the world with good, better quality of life and better salaries. The labor migration is obvious. I mean, it is true that due to the economic crisis, there was a surge in labor migration and brain drain. But uh, let's think it was not happened in the country, but this is going to happen. This is going to happen because our politicians have not developed this economy. Uh, Compare to the development of our education sector. So there is a contradict in those two sectors. So this brain drain is going to be increased further in the near future. So this is what he precisely. So the Ivor Jennings is the person who precisely predicted this brain drain in the country. He was the first person, according to my observation, who predicted this. And next we look at the modern world labor migration trends, the labor migration trends of the modern world, and uh, in 2019, the total labor migrations around the globe is around 169 million. Of that, 41.5 was female and 58.5 was male, with 10% being between 15 years to 24 years old. And region-wise, most migrated to the USA, Europe, and Arab state. So here the trend is most people are migrating from developing countries to the developed countries. The next trend is the share of female migrants has declined from 49.4% at mid-year of 2000 to 48.1% at mid-year of 2020. It means over the last 2 decades there is a slight decline of female migrants, whereas during the same 2 decades the proportion of male migrant workers grew from 50.6 to 51.9. And the next trend is more skilled labor migrations compared to the past. There is rise of illegal migrations and also there is diaspora engagement in labor migrations. The other trend is the technology and digital migration. Technology advancement have transformed the migration landscape. Digital platforms and online job portals have made it easier for migrants to access information, connect with employers, and explore opportunity across the borders. And regional migrations. The next trend is the regional migrations, especially within the European Union. Economic disparities between neighboring countries or region lead to significant migration flows. For example, the European Union have witnessed inter-regional migration from Eastern European countries to the Western European nations in search for better economic opportunities. So, how COVID-19 affected the labor migration process? COVID-19 made a significant impact on the labor migrations from 2020 to 2022. How it affected the labor migration process? First, travel restrictions. There were a lot of travel restrictions worldwide. There were border closure, there was strict quarantine process, and there were frequent flight cancellations. So the labor migrations dramatically reduced over the 2000 over those 2 years, and there were job losses and economic downturn, which causes to companies to lay off a lot of laborers, and there were remittance reductions across the developing nations, and there were stranded migrant workers, especially in the host countries, and there was rise in xenophobia and discriminations. Clearly, there was a clear discrimination in developed countries towards the migrant workers, and the citizens of developed countries thought that the migrant workers as the reasons for the spread of the COVID-19. So there was a clear discriminations. So and there especially there was a special trend, special thing which has happened after COVID-19 around the world was there was a higher demand for healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, and other related paramedics. So there was very high demand for the healthcare workers in developed countries. So impact on Sri Lanka. The impact of labor migrations and brain drain on Sri Lanka. So I'm going to talk about the foreign remittances first. Uh, the foreign remittances through migrant workers plays a crucial role in Sri Lankan economy. It contributes 7.8% of the GDP with total of nearly 7 to 8 billion USD per annum. And 600 million USD per monthly, roughly. 52% of female workers and 48% are male workers. Popular destination is Middle East, South Korea, Italy, Australia, and UK. Following the economic crisis, nearly 300,000 labor force left the country in less than a 1 year period. Brain drain is more common among doctors, university academics, engineers, etc. This will negatively affect the Sri Lankan economy as our population is already aging. Impact on world economy. The impact of labor migrations and brain drain on world economy. You can see in this chart that the amount of remittances in US dollars billion in 2008, the top countries which received highest amount of foreign remittances. India has received nearly 80 billion US dollars from their migrant workers. China 67.4 billion. Philippines 33.7 billion. Mexico 33.7 billion. Bangladesh 15.9 billion. But Sri Lanka we received usually around 7 to 8 billion US dollars. So uh, the impact on the world economy due to the labor migrations, that labor migrations around the world act as remittances flow, especially for developing economies. And due to this labor migration, there is a global economic growth, and there is a development of the innovations, development on businesses and entrepreneurships, and there is a tax contributions in developed countries as well as the developing countries. There is a demographic balance in aging developed world with low fertility rate. Uh, it means that there are some developed countries with low fertility rates and high aging populations. For this labor migrations change the demography of that populations to some extent, and knowledge and skill transfer to the developing world. Those are the impact of labor migrations on the world economy. So finally, the conclusion. The conclusion of labor migrations and the brain drain uh, is the effect of labor migration and brain drain has both positive and negative consequences for countries of origin and destinations. While it presents opportunities for individuals seeking better economic prospects and professional growth, it also poses challenges for the countries left behind. While labor migrations and brain drain have complex effect on countries, addressing the challenges and maximizing the benefits require a multifaceted approach that balances the needs of individuals and the development of priorities of a nation. So that is it, and uh, we talk about the uh, all the aspects that is related to the labor migration and brain drain uh, domestically and worldwide. So these are the these are my references. These are the conclusions, and these are my references. So thank you very much. Uh, Good night.